This is Gary Thies, your Mission Development Counselor here in the hills of western Iowa at a place called Mission Central, where God sends our missionaries from all over the world. What a joy to have as our special guests today, a family all the way from Nairobi, Kenya in East Africa. And what a joy to welcome little Elijah and Josiah. And we're glad that you're part of this family and you can tell people about Jesus too. I know that. Krista, you're the mom of the family.
I am.
And God is using you in a wonderful way. Can you tell us how God's using you there in Kenya, in East Africa?
Well, what I do there is pretty much what a lot of people do here. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and so I get to watch my two kids. They keep me very busy, and then I also do a lot of cooking from scratch for our many visitors who pass through, and then I also help out with odds and ends and with our website and things like that.
Well, that's great. Now, God has called you to help direct this little family, but Pastor Shauen Trump, God's called you in a special way to share the message of Jesus with people halfway around the world. Tell us a little bit about some of the things you do.
Well, a lot of what I do is work with an existing church partner we have in both Kenya and Tanzania. So sometimes I'm preaching in congregations that don't have a pastor. Sometimes I'm visiting areas where there's leaders who are asking for some training or some kind of education. And sometimes I find that I'm asked to do door-to-door evangelism with our church partners, and I'll be going door-to-door in Muslim areas or in areas particularly where they don't know the gospel, where they've never heard the name of Jesus Christ. And I find in those areas there are often people eager to find that freedom that we find in Jesus Christ, that freedom from sin and death and the devil. And those door-to-door visits are really the most powerful thing I think I get to do. Sometimes those are followed up with baptisms or these amazing opportunities to see the church explode right before my eyes.
Well, Pastor Trump, God's called you there. You have family in Seward, Nebraska. Is that correct?
It's Krista who has family in Seward, yeah.
Yeah, and your mom and dad are members of what congregation?
St. John's.
St. John's in Seward. And who are they?
Tom and Bernita Krensky.
The Kenskys. Now, Pastor Trump, over in Kenya, you had an experience about a lady that told you she was 4,000 years old.
That's right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was in East Africa, and we were doing door-to-door evangelism in a village among the Sukuma people. And as we came past a small tree, there was a lady sitting there, and we stopped to visit with her. Her name was Esther. And we said, "Esther, how old are you?" And she told us she was 4,000 years old. And I said, "Oh, grandmother, that is very old. You've seen many things in your days." And she said she had. Now, as we continued to talk to her, we found out that she actually knew who Jesus Christ was. And from what she told us, it certainly sounded like if she didn't already have a saving faith, she was on the cusp of that faith being worked in her. So as we continued our conversation, then we asked her what she understood about baptism. And she understood what baptism was. So then we asked finally, "Are you baptized, Esther?" And she said no. She'd been thinking about it for a long time. So what we said was, "Esther, if you have been thinking about baptism, and you know what it is, and you know who this Jesus Christ is, stop fighting it. The Lord is calling you." And at that moment, faith was worked in Esther, and she said, "You're right. Let me be baptized right now." And we had the joy of baptizing that woman right on the spot.
You know, those are the kinds of stories that tell us what we're really doing here, and that's how come God called you there to meet with Esther. It's really a blessing. Now, Pastor, I'd like to ask you, for you and your family, if we could pray or have people pray, what would be the most important thing we could pray for you for your family?
I think for our family, the most important thing you can pray for is just the opportunity to raise our children well and to keep them safe in sometimes a difficult place to live. They're very far from extended family and grandparents, and it's a little bit hard for them to see Grandpa and Grandma just on Skype and things like that. And my wife sometimes bears more of the brunt of living in a difficult situation far away from family and friends. Me, I have work and I have places I go, but she's the one who sometimes feels very lonely just taking care of the kids.
Well, once again, we see how God calls special families like your little family, and what a joy it is to work with you. We have to get people to pray for you and support your work, because you have to raise your own support for your little family, and God has provided through special people. And I want you to know how much we love you and how much we appreciate the work that you do in our behalf. And so Pastor Trump and little Josiah, God bless you, buddy. And little Elijah, you're a little missionary too. And Krista, know how much we love you, and we'll be praying for your family. Once again, we see how God calls special people at just the right time to carry His message of love and His goodness and grace to people halfway around the world in a land in East Africa where they're so hungry for the gospel. This is Gary Thies reporting with our missionaries from Kenya in East Africa.